So right now, your smartphone browser is probably downloading a hidden tuxedo and, I don't know, a pair of snowshoes just to show you a simple plain t-shirt.
Which sounds completely absurd when you put it like that.
Right. It sounds ridiculous, but if your business runs on one of those generic off-the-shelf website templates, you are essentially forcing your customers to unpack that exact invisible luggage every single time they click a link.
Yeah, and it is absolutely costing you.
It really is. So welcome to this deep dive. Today we are tearing into the invisible architecture of the web. We have a genuinely fascinating stack of research in front of us from the team at Viral Chili.
Oh, it's such a good document. They detail exactly how these oxygen builder experts basically go in and systematically dismantle 5 massive structural problems that just plague modern websites.
Yeah, we are looking at the foundational flaws that those, fast and cheap website templates really only patch over. It's like buying a house just because it has a fresh coat of paint
Huh.
and completely ignoring the fact that the foundation is cracked.
Exactly. And the distinction between a cosmetic patch and a structural fix,
Yeah.
I mean, that is the entire ball game here. Businesses so often treat their website like a billboard, right?
Yeah.
When they really should be treating it like a piece of software. The research from Viral Chili highlights this really hard truth. Template-based sites are brilliant for a weekend project or, getting a temporary landing page live.
Sure, just to get something out there.
Right. But the underlying code architecture of a mass market template is inherently compromised.
Mm-hmm.
It has to appeal to everyone, which means it is optimized for literally no one.
Optimized for no one. I like that.
Yeah. And custom-built environments, specifically those engineered with Oxygen Builder, they strip away that compromise. And the Viral Chili data shows this results in a quantifiable shift in how a site actually converts traffic and scales over time.
Okay, so let's pull the thread on that compromised code idea. Because the mission today is to uncover these digital traps for you, the listener, and show you why that template is secretly capping your growth. Let's start with the immediate consequence, which is speed, or I guess the lack of it.
Definitely the lack of it.
So I used the tuxedo and snowshoes analogy earlier, but let's actually unpack the mechanism there. The Viral Chili document talks heavily about code bloat.
Oh yeah, massive code bloat.
Generic templates come loaded with scripts for like hidden widgets, complex image sliders, and these massive generic styling libraries. Now, the common defense I hear from business owners is always, well, I just go into the dashboard and turn those features off.
Right, the toggle switches.
Yeah. Like if the visitor doesn't actually see the snowshoes, why is the site still lagging so badly?
So here's the thing. The toggles in a template dashboard are basically a user interface illusion.
An illusion. Wait, really?
Yeah. When you flip a switch to hide an image slider, you aren't actually deleting the code that powers the slider from your server. You're literally just telling the template to hide it from the visual display.
Oh, wow. So it's still there in the background.
Exactly. The visitor's browser still has to request, download, and parse the entire CSS and JavaScript file associated with that slider before it can even render the page. It's an issue of how browsers read the DOM, the document object model.
Okay, right.
The browser reads code line by line. Every single unused script blocks the main thread. So your customer is just staring at a blank white screen, waiting for their phone to process thousands of lines of code for features that aren't even visible.
So we often think of site speed as just this, convenience metric. But mechanically, by forcing the browser to read hidden code, you are actively asking your customer to wait in an invisible line.
It is an abandonment metric, plain and simple.
Abandonment metric, that is brutal.
And the abandonment data is ruthless. A 2-second delay in rendering can effectively sever your conversion rate. And this is where the Oxygen Builder methodology just fundamentally diverges from the template market.
How so?
Oxygen development teams, they don't start with a bloated framework and try to hide things. They write lean, purpose-built, conditional code.
Conditional code. Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning, if a specific landing page does not contain a slider, the JavaScript and CSS required to run a slider simply do not exist in the source code of that page. The output is a highly minimized DOM structure.
And the numbers in the Viral Chili research back that up dramatically. They note that load times frequently drop by more than half after a site is rebuilt in Oxygen.
Easily, sometimes even more.
Which is wild. You are essentially handing your visitors their time back simply by removing all that invisible luggage. But, okay, let's say you survive that initial load time, the browser unpacks the code, the page finally renders, and the visitor sees your site.
Right. The next hurdle.
The immediate next hurdle is what that rendering actually looks like on a 6-inch piece of glass. Which brings us to the trust factor, design precision, and really the mobile-first reality.
Yeah, the visual layer is where trust is established.
Hmm.
And web design statistics continually prove that visitors judge the entire credibility of your business operation in mere milliseconds.
Milliseconds, that's no time at all.
None. And it's based purely on visual stability.
Right, and here is where generic templates really expose themselves. Because we have all been there. The site loads fast enough, but the brand colors look slightly patched together, the text is just oddly spaced.
Oh, or the buttons are floating in weird places.
Yes, and worse, you're looking at it on your phone and you have to pinch and zoom just to tap a button. The template was clearly built desktop first.
Absolutely.
Now, I know developers always talk about breakpoints, like the specific pixel width where a layout snaps to a new grid so it fits a smaller screen. But if I'm using a standard template, aren't my breakpoints just locked in by whoever built the theme like 3 years ago?
Yeah, you are totally at their mercy. Think about the mechanics of retrofitting a desktop design for a smartphone. A generic template starts with this sprawling desktop layout. And as the screen shrinks, the template applies these heavy, complex CSS override rules to try and force all those elements into a single column.
It's like trying to shove a couch through a small doorway.
Exactly. Things get crushed. Elements overlap, touch targets for buttons become way too small for a human thumb, and typography just doesn't scale proportionally.
It's a mess.
It is. But Oxygen Builder shifts this entirely by giving developers native, granular control over CSS flexbox and grid layouts at every single breakpoint.
So they aren't fighting the template's predetermined overrides. They're basically writing the rules for the smartphone layout directly.
Exactly. They are dictating the foundational CSS. Instead of relying on a template's clumsy attempt to just, shrink a desktop view, an Oxygen expert engineers the mobile view first.
Okay, mobile first.
Right. They ensure that typography uses fluid scaling, meaning the text dynamically adjusts its size based on the exact width of the device viewport, rather than just snapping rigidly between sizes.
Oh, that makes so much sense. It's smooth instead of blocky.
Exactly. They design the layout so that a complex desktop grid elegantly unspools into this highly readable, thumb-friendly mobile experience. The brand guidelines, the specific hex codes, the exact padding around your logo, they are implemented precisely.
So you aren't forcing your brand to conform to the template's structural limits?
No, the developer's forcing the technology to perfectly map to your brand.
Which is huge, because trust is built through precision. If a business can't present a functional, stable interface on the device that, 80% of their audience uses?
At least 80%, yeah.
The subconscious signal to the customer is just that the business itself is unstable.
100%.
Okay, so we've stripped out the bloated code. The site is incredibly fast. We've established native mobile-first breakpoints so it looks stunning and trustworthy on any device.
So far, so good.
But what happens 6 months from now, when the business hits a massive growth phase? Say you launch 3 new product lines, you need a new resource center for white papers, and your team is doubling.
Ah, right. The structural stress test.
Yeah. We need to transition from the visual front end to the back-end architecture, specifically looking at scalability and dynamic data, which Viral Chili points out is a huge issue.
The growth ceiling is the silent killer of template-based sites. A generic theme might look perfectly fine on launch day when you only have, say, 5 pages of content, but the architecture just wasn't designed to expand.
It hits a wall.
It really does. When a business outgrows a template, they usually end up trying to force radically new content, like a complex database of case studies or a multi-tiered service directory, into these old, rigid layouts that were originally designed for just a simple blog post.
I always look at this through the lens of a catalog versus a dynamic database. Trying to scale a template is basically like managing a printed catalog.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Like, if you want to add a new product or a new case study, someone on your team has to manually design a new page, format the text block, drop in the images, mess with the spacing, and just pray it aesthetically matches the rest of the site.
And it's incredibly labor-intensive.
It is. But the Viral Chili deep dive heavily emphasizes that Oxygen Builder utilizes dynamic data structures. So how does that actually change the daily operations of a marketing team?
Well, it fundamentally changes the relationship between your content and your design. With a generic template, design and content are tangled together on every single page.
Right.
But with Oxygen, an expert developer separates them using custom post types and advanced custom fields.
Okay, so separating the two, how does that look in practice?
So instead of manually designing 50 individual pages for 50 case studies, the developer builds a single, highly optimized skeleton layout, a template in the truest sense of the word, and they link the visual elements of that skeleton directly to a database.
Wait, so the marketing team just fills out a form?
That's it. They log into the WordPress backend, paste the text into a field labeled Case Study Summary, upload an image to a field labeled Hero Graphic, and they hit Publish.
Wow.
They literally never touch the design layer. Oxygen automatically pulls that raw data, pushes it through the pre-engineered skeleton layout, and renders a perfectly formatted, brand-compliant page instantly.
That is a massive operational shift.
It's game-changing. The architecture is designed to ingest data and output design automatically. You aren't rebuilding the house every time you want to add a room. The system scales infinitely without incurring new technical debt or design costs.
And it protects the brand identity because no one can accidentally break the layout by, adding an extra space or the wrong font. Plus, it saves thousands of hours of manual page building.
Exactly.
But building a library of great content brings up the next major structural issue from the Viral Chili research, which is technical SEO.
Oh, this is the big one.
It is. Marketers will scream, "Content is king," until they are blue in the face. But if I'm understanding this correctly, a generic website template can take genuinely brilliant content and essentially render it invisible to Google.
Yeah. The discrepancy between content quality and search visibility is where businesses bleed the most money. I mean, companies will invest heavily in subject matter experts and copywriters, but then they deploy that content on a technical foundation that Google's crawlers just struggle to understand.
Because search engines don't read your website visually, right?
Right. They read the underlying code to determine the context, the hierarchy, and the relevance of the information. And generic templates are notoriously bad at generating clean, semantic HTML.
I have actually looked at the source code of some highly popular off-the-shelf templates, and it is a nightmare.
It's basically a junk drawer.
It is. It's just an endless maze of nested div tags, like a div inside a div inside a div, just wrapping around a single sentence. And I often see templates using H1 or H2 heading tags purely as styling tools.
Yes, that drives SEOs crazy.
The designer just wanted a larger font size, so they used an H1 tag for a minor side note, which completely destroys the logical document outline.
Which forces Google to waste its crawl budget. Search engines allocate a finite amount of computational resources to crawl any given domain.
Okay.
If a crawler gets bogged down parsing 40 levels of meaningless nested div tags just to find the core paragraph of your article, it will eventually just abandon the crawl.
It just gives up.
Exactly. And guarding the heading tags using an H1 just to make text look big is like publishing a textbook and randomly making words in the glossary of the chapter titles. It completely destroys the semantic logic.
Wow. So how does Oxygen Builder change the crawler's experience?
Oxygen allows the developer to construct a page using pure semantic HTML. Instead of relying on meaningless containers, the code explicitly tells the crawler what it's looking at.
So it's mapping it out properly.
Yeah. Yes. An expert wraps the main article in an article tag, the navigation in a nav tag, and secondary information in an aside. They establish a strict, logical hierarchy where the H1 tag is exclusively the main topic, H2s are primary subtopics, and H3s are supporting points.
And the visual styling.
The visual styling is handled entirely separately via CSS. The result is a clean, easily parsable map of your content. You are feeding Google exactly what its algorithm craves.
Which produces those ranking improvements.
Exactly. It often produces significant ranking improvements that simply writing more blog posts could never achieve on a flawed template.
You are translating the content into the machine's native language rather than forcing the machine to decipher a total mess.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so intellectually moving to this custom, Oxygen-built architecture makes perfect sense. Fast load times, precise mobile design, infinitely scalable data structures, and semantic SEO.
It's the dream setup.
It is, but let's deal with the reality check. Let's talk about the logistics of the migration. Drawing from the FAQ section of the Viral Chili document, any business owner listening to this is likely sweating bullets right now about their current traffic.
Oh, for sure. Migrations are scary.
Right. If I tear down my site to fix all these structural issues, aren't I going to destroy whatever Google rankings I currently have? It is terrifying to think about touching a site that is currently bringing in revenue, even if we know the foundation is cracking.
The fear of a botched migration is incredibly common. And frankly, it is totally justified if the process is handled by an amateur.
True.
But the premise that changing your site's architecture inherently destroys your rankings is flawed. Google does not rank your WordPress theme.
Okay, so what are they ranking?
Google ranks your URLs, the historical authority of those URLs, the quality of the content on them, and increasingly the user experience metrics like how fast it loads and how stable the layout is.
So we are essentially just swapping the engine while keeping the chassis intact.
Exactly the right framework. A professional oxygen rebuild doesn't happen on your live domain. The developers construct a complete staging environment.
Right, behind the scenes.
Yeah. They recreate the design system, map the dynamic data, and build that clean HTML structure we talked about. But crucially, they run an exhaustive mapping of your current URL structure.
And if things have to move.
If an old page has to change its address, they implement permanent 301 redirects, passing all the historical SEO equity from the old link directly to the new one.
So the search crawler comes back, follows the exact same URL path, finds the exact same content, but suddenly the code bloat is gone, the nested divs have vanished, and the page loads in half a second instead of 4.
Precisely. The technical issues were acting as a massive anchor on the site's potential. When the staging site is pushed live and that anchor is cut, the site's core web vitals, which are Google's metrics for speed and visual stability, they suddenly turn green.
That's incredible.
Because you preserve the URLs and the metadata while drastically improving the technical foundation, the most common outcome of a properly executed Oxygen migration is an upward trajectory in search visibility, not a penalty.
Wow. That reframes the entire anxiety right there. Holding onto a broken template out of fear is actually guaranteeing a slow decline.
It really is.
However, the Viral Chili FAQ does make a point to add a caveat here. This bespoke Oxygen build is not a set-it-and-forget-it magic wand. Underneath the custom architecture, it is still a WordPress application, which means it lives in the real, highly hostile world of the internet.
Oh, absolutely. The digital ecosystem is constantly shifting. Browsers update their rendering engines, PHP versions evolve, and security threats become way more sophisticated.
So it needs upkeep.
Yeah, the structural integrity of a custom-built environment needs to be actively protected. Standard ongoing WordPress maintenance, meaning routine software updates, active security monitoring, and redundant database backups, is non-negotiable.
Right. You don't buy a high-end sports car and then just refuse to change the oil.
It's exactly. A professional maintenance protocol ensures that the high-performance engine you just invested in continues to operate at peak efficiency and remains entirely secure against automated exploits.
It requires professional upkeep to maintain its edge. Okay, so to pull all of these threads together, for you listening, if you take one critical insight away from this deep dive, it should be a total shift in how you view website friction.
Yes.
Slow load times, awkward mobile layouts that force your thumbs into gymnastics, and brilliant content that ranks nowhere. These are not random glitches. They are the inevitable symptoms of trying to run a dynamic, growing business on a rigid, mass-market template.
They are symptoms of a compromised foundation.
Exactly. And Oxygen Builder experts, according to the Viral Chili research, they just operate on a totally different plane. They eliminate the hidden code, engineer native mobile precision, deploy semantic HTML for the algorithms, and utilize dynamic data so your site scales automatically without breaking a single sweat.
They replace generic visual workarounds with engineered structural solutions. And if we elevate this entire conversation from just website architecture to business strategy, it forces a critical evaluation of the tools you choose to deploy. Which actually brings me to a final thought for you to sit with.
Ooh, go for it.
Think about your long-term roadmap. If an off-the-shelf website template is actively restricting your ability to add new services, forcing you to compromise your visual identity, and limiting how your marketing team publishes content,
Yeah.
is your business model actually dictating your website, or have you allowed a cheap digital template to start dictating your business model?
Wow. Let that sink in for a minute. Are you painting over a cracking foundation, or are you investing in an architecture designed to accelerate your growth? A huge thank you to the Viral Chili team for the incredible research today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We will catch you on the next one.